Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for standing by, and welcome to today's session in the ReadyTalk webinar series. I want to thank you for taking some time out of your afternoon to join us today. If you've been with us before, welcome back. We're glad to have you. If this is your first time with us, we hope it's not your last time with us and you come back and join us for more. Today's seminar is entitled How to Build a Customer-Centric Enterprise with Cloud Computing. And joining us to share some insight on the topic today is Ron Goldman, who is the Service Cloud Director for Astadia. He runs their Service and Collaboration Cloud lines of business, helps along with tech support, customer service, marketing, telesales organizations, basically to improve their customer experience and build loyalty and improve financial performance across the board in the organization. A couple of housekeeping tips before we do get started today. During today's presentation, all of the participants are going to be in a listen-only mode. However, if you guys do have some questions, please feel free to chat those into the chat feature, and that's located at the lower left-hand portion of your screen. If we have some that are applicable to the topic at hand, I'll be sure to queue those up with Ron. If not, we'll leave plenty of time at the end to get to all of those as well. And as a reminder, today's presentation is being recorded Tuesday, August 16th, and you'll receive a link to that recording later on today in the post-event email, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. And also we'll remind you again, but don't forget to fill out the post-event survey. We love giving your feedback, getting your feedback after these events and what you're interested in and how you thought our speakers and ReadyTalk did today. So on that note, let me put this slide up really quickly. If you guys are on Twitter, feel free to use the hashtags cloud or cloud computing today in any conversation to carry it on there, and you'll see all of our handles there as well. On that note, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Ron to kick off today's presentation.
Thank you so much, Simone. I appreciate the introduction. So as Simone mentioned, I run our service and collaboration lines of business. Astadia is a consulting company focused on cloud computing and integration. So today I'm going to talk about the next big battleground in differentiating your company is in customer support. So what we'll do today is I'll give you a 2-minute overview of Astadia. We'll talk about what is cloud computing. It means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, so we'll focus on that a little. I'll tell you what we mean by cloud computing. Then we'll talk about why does it matter to have a customer-centric organization. And then we'll show you how to utilize some of the cloud tools to actually build out that enterprise. So just 2 minutes on Astadia here. So Astadia, once again, is a consulting company focused on cloud computing. Salesforce.com is one of our biggest partners. We use their platform to implement solutions for over 6,000 clients over the past 10 years. We have 4 practice areas: service and collaboration, which I run. We have a sales cloud area focused on Salesforce automation. We have another practice focused on marketing automation. And we have a 4th practice focused on cloud transformation and integration for IT organizations. We utilize a process which we call Cloud Map. And what Cloud Map does is takes a look at the business processes that you're currently using. Excuse me here, slides are. We take a look at your business objectives, your priorities, and then we blend the processes, the people, the data, and the systems to bring a full solution to you, once again using cloud technologies. So let's jump on now and talk exactly what is cloud computing. So there's numerous cloud computing over the past 2 years sort of has the big buzzword in the industry. So it has a couple different attributes, and what I'm going to be talking about mainly today is what we'll call public clouds. So you'll hear the term private cloud, public cloud. But a public cloud means, first of all, you just need a browser to connect to your application. So your application is hosted, but that hosted application is multi-tenant. And multi-tenant is one of the most important parts of a public cloud. So I'll give you an example of a great example of a multi-tenant application is email. So let's say you use Google Mail. Now everybody is using the same application. If Google makes a change to the application, everybody can see that change. Yet you're using this shared infrastructure, but your data is just private to you. So any cloud solution, just like Salesforce, is a multi-tenant solution where everybody is using the same software base behind the scenes, but you have access to only your data. Another great attribute of cloud computing is that it's elastic. So you can pay as you go. So if you need another 10 users, you can quickly administer those new 10 users. And that is mostly, the reason of that is that you're sharing this multi-tenant technology. So your actual usage of the whole huge infrastructure behind the scene is only a small part. So they can provision additional seats behind the scenes, and it's not a huge component of the whole infrastructure. So it's elastic, so you scale as you need, and you can get it turned on just in time. And flexible, so by flexible I mean you can work with existing IT infrastructure even on your premise. And by its nature, if you work with a strong partner on the cloud computing front, they'll have built-in disaster recovery, business continuity, and SAS 70 compliance, SAS 70 compliance, which means their processes have been audited. So let's switch gears here and talk about why it matters to use customer service as a differentiator. So as products and services are becoming more and more commoditized in today's world, you need to differentiate yourself. And as this quote here from Forrester last year states, 90% of North American firms view customer experience as important or critical to their 2010 plans. So bottom line is if you want to differentiate your company in a commodity business or a very competitive business, customer service can be that differentiator. Also, here's some data that shows that good service drives repeat business. As we all know, it costs you 5 times more to acquire a new customer than to service an existing customer. So this little study shows that a customer who has no problem with your product or service is 78% likely to buy again. A customer who has a problem is only 32% likely again. But if the customer has a problem and receives good customer service, they're 89% likely to buy again. So bottom line is you can see how a good customer service experience can drive additional customers. Also, as this slide shows here, great service also delivers financial results. This data is showing after the last economic downturn in 2002 that customers rated high in customer service, this grew at 75% compared with the laggards who did not focus on customer service. So that's showing you some real financial results. Similar financial results show up from the more recent downturn in 2008. So once again, the gain for companies that were leaders in this customer experience showed a 59% gain versus 26 and 10% for the S&P 500 and laggards, respectively there. So how do you go about building a customer-centric enterprise? So as you look at your current infrastructure and your people and your products and services, there's really a couple layers. So your customers today interact with you through many different means. They'll interact with you through social communities. They'll interact with you through different devices like an iPad or web self-service or through a telephone IVR. They'll find you via search. And you have different technologies inside your company, ERP systems, CRM systems, marketing automation, web properties, web analytics. And you have most large companies have a data warehouse infrastructure. So as you're looking at building a customer-centric enterprise, you have to look at all the interaction points between the customer and the company, look at the technologies, and then can you define, measure, and report on the key metrics? So how your customer is interacting with you, can you report on that? And then a whole big part that a lot of people don't pay enough attention to is a change management side of things. So as you're changing out technologies and you're changing out interfaces to the customer, is the customer and the company ready and willing to embrace the change? The next slide shows a little more detail as you're mapping out the ideal customer experience. The last slide showed you sort of the different interaction points and technologies, but this slide here is showing you that the customer experience goes even further than that. What you have to do is look down and different points in a customer life cycle, you need to probably treat the customer differently. So their needs might change from when the time they're looking at and evaluating your product to when they actually purchased it and they're setting up the product to the times when they're ready to upgrade and renew. So as you're looking at building a customer-centric enterprise, you have to take a look at these different points in the life cycle. Another thing I'm seeing, I speak with probably 5 to 10 clients and prospects a week. And last year I did about 10 speaking engagements in the customer service industry. And what we're really finding is that everybody needs to now support the interaction methods that their customers prefer. It's not necessarily what's best for your company, it's what the customers prefer. So web self-service is becoming very prominent, and I'll talk about that a little more. Obviously the phone is still there, email, chat, text, and social. And how you interact is also going to depend on sort of the age group and the demographic of your customers. And then a fact that can't be ignored is that you're going to have to mobile enable every channel. And we'll talk about that over the next few slides here. So if you look at how people are accessing the Internet and how this has changed over the years, right now you can see smartphones is the predominant way that people are accessing the Internet. So desktops have sort of remained steady. And tablets are growing, and I think actually this tablet part of this slide is really underestimated because we see tablet growth growing strongly. This next slide here supports that. So they surveyed CIOs on tablet usage in the company. So back in 2010, 71% of CIOs had a policy that tablets weren't allowed in the corporation. So in just 1 year, that has changed dramatically from 71 down to 33. Also, if you look at companies that are buying tablets for their people, have gone from 21 over to 51. So tremendous growth. So bottom line is tablets is one of the fastest ramping mobile devices ever, as you can see that quote from Morgan Stanley there. So another thing I see from being out there in the industry and talking to clients is that everybody is now looking at a 360-degree view of the customer to drive a competitive advantage. So what you need to do is you need to have tools and systems so that your sales organization and service organization and your operations team can all see and have one view of the customer. So example here is if a sales guy is out trying to sell to an existing client and he's going to present $1 million purchase order in front of the client and he doesn't know that there's 5 critical issues outstanding in the customer service team, that's going to put egg on his face and not be too great when he's trying to close that deal. On the other side of this, wouldn't it be great if the customer service rep who's working a problem with the customer can see that there's $1 million order in process for this client, and therefore they can provide exemplary service to that client. So this 360-degree view of the customer is becoming a big competitive advantage. So I mentioned self-service will continue to grow a little earlier, and we're at the point now where customers have fully embraced the web and prefer self-service to waiting on an agent. And I think we can all look at our own lives. I know most of us would rather go online and self-serve than call up and wait on hold for 15 minutes to get an agent who might not be able to solve our problem. So this is very important, and I think people have underestimated the power of web self-service. And we help a lot of clients implement self-service and really dramatically lower their service costs. So another thing you have to consider, and this is actually a screen out of Salesforce, is that when customers call, you need to provide personalized service. I know once again, as a consumer, it drives me crazy when I call up for customer service. I get to an automated telephone system, and it's asking me for my account number. I punch in my account number, then I get put on hold. When the agent answers the phone, once again, what do? They ask for my account number. It's very infuriating. So what you need to do to provide great customer service is personalize it and make sure your systems handle this. So this is just an instance here where based on computer telephony integration, based on the number that the person dialed in, the tool can bring up information for that particular account and for that particular person so that you're providing very specific customer service for that person. This is just another example out of Salesforce where you can provide personalized service by integrating other systems, all your tools in one screen for the agent, so once again they can best serve the customer. Another big trend we're seeing in the industry is integrating social media and communities as support channels. So I'll change gears and talk about that for a few minutes. So you can see on this left side screen here, this is Crocs, the shoe manufacturer, Ideas. This is a site we built for them using Salesforce technology that allows them to gather feedback on products, design, features, and customer service. So consider this like an electronic feedback mechanism or an electronic suggestion box, so your clients can become part of your community and engage with you and give you feedback on your products and services. On the right side of this, I'm showing a Cisco support community. This is where Cisco has what they call a Top Net Pro site. And on the Top Net Pro site, what they do is they have thousands of networking professionals provide support to Cisco clients for free. And bottom line is, this is a dramatic way to lower your cost of support. And how they encourage this is they give these top net pros a little web page and they give them rankings. I know it's small on the screen here, but this top guy here on the Cisco support community, Rob Huffman, answered over 1,600 questions for people on Cisco products with a 4.7 out of 5 rating. So these people are answering questions for free just to get the recognition and being part of this sort of this top geek dashboard here. Another part of social is we're seeing is people are spending more and more time on social media than they are even in email. So for the first time ever back in 2009, social networking users surpassed email users. Pretty monumental in that email has been the killer app on the web for the past 20 years. And this data is supported by how much time people are spending on social networks. So as you can see from this slide here from Nielsen Company, that people are spending 3 times more time on blogs and social networks than on email. This is a slide showing the top internet use cases here. So this top line, this is 20% of all internet usage. So almost 15% of total internet usage today is for Facebook alone. Pretty amazing. Also what we're seeing is social media is not just for kids anymore. The core business demographic has embraced social media, as this data from eMarketer.com shows here. So you can see on the right the core business demographic of 25 to 54-year-olds, how social media adoption is going up quite dramatically, and especially in the higher age brackets here, so the 45 to 54-year-olds going from 28 to 64% adoption. And then we're also seeing companies embracing support via social media. So this was a report from 2011 here, just earlier this year from supportindustry.com. It's saying that 23% of companies are using social media now as part of their support infrastructure, with another 11% planning to do so over the next year. So that's about 1/3 of companies will be doing that in this survey, and another third is not sure, and another third are saying no for the current time being. And really what we're seeing is the larger companies, the Fortune 200, are really embracing this, and they realize they have to for brand control. So another part of social is not only being monitoring social conversations external to your company, but it's also using social internal to your company. This is an example of an internal collaboration tool for Salesforce.com users called Twitter. And with this, it has a user interface that looks a lot like Facebook for internal collaboration. And the other thing you have to look about is integrating social monitoring and with your CRM tools. Typically, a lot of companies have looked at social media as, okay, we'll monitor what's going on there. And CRM has traditionally been an actionable platform. So what you need to look at is combining the two. So taking information you find on social media, bringing it into CRM, and making it actionable. Once again, this is a dashboard out of Salesforce where we have the integration with Facebook turned on. And as conversations come in that are from Facebook, it will show up in the case queue for the agents, and it will show you where that case originated. So I started talking about the collaboration here. So with the internal collaboration, you can have people collaborate around cases, have your sales team, your support teams, all collaborating around issues out there. So internal collaboration is another important thing to look at. And we've also done some integration between Salesforce and some of the major social media sites where you can post from inside your CRM tool to other social media sites and then receive feedback right in your CRM tool from those social media sites. So that's some other interesting integration that you can look at. So in this particular instance here, you could type what you want to post, click which network you want to send it to, LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook in this example, and your information would be posted on the site that you wanted to post it on. In this case, I'm showing a Facebook posting. And then what happens is that information comes back. If anybody comments to that, it would come back into your CRM tool where you can then take action on it using some other integration we built. So in this example here, this Twitter message came in. I could create a contact, a lead, or a follow-up task to interact with that person that responded to that message. All right, change gears once again here. So the next thing you need to look at when you're building a customer-centric organization is the whole change management and governance process. So what you have to do is look internally and say, okay, these new technologies, these new methods, these new tools, what does my corporate culture look like? Will they be able to absorb this change? So you have to consider that as you're implementing these technologies. Another part of this whole change is the organizational structure. If you're using collaboration tools, one thing that does automatically is flatten sort of the organizational hierarchies where people at different levels are able to communicate in a more open fashion. So you need to consider that. And then probably one of the most important points in change management is communication. Communicating to all your teams, letting them know what's going to change, when it's going to change, why you're going to change, what the expectations are, and then a constant communication about what expectations have been met, who's doing great implementing the new technology, publicizing the results of what you're trying to change, and so forth. So once again, this is a very important part of any kind of technology change, and especially when you're building a customer-centric organization. I have just one more slide here and sort of summarizing what we're seeing here. So once again, as I go around the industry and talk to clients, sort of seeing a couple major points. So we're really at an inflection point, and cloud computing is ready for prime time in a large enterprise. We see a ton of Fortune 500 companies implementing the cloud. But in a large enterprise, we're seeing hybrid models will be the norm for a long time. And mainly this is because they have tons of embedded systems and legacy systems that have been pieced together over the years. So the cloud solutions are typically put in by department level people, and then as that takes hold, there's a wider implementation inside a company. But while you're doing that, you need to integrate with the existing systems. So we're also seeing smaller organizations fully embracing the cloud. And our company is one example of that. So we're a 200-person consulting company, pretty geographically diverse. We have people throughout the U.S. We have people in the UK. We have people in India. And every tool we use is cloud-based. So we basically drink our own Kool-Aid. And we're seeing a lot of the smaller companies, up to 500 people, are going to this full cloud model. Another point which I mentioned earlier and is really, really important is that everybody is now running their lives off their mobile phone. So you need to mobile enable your customer touch points and take social media integration into the whole mix when you're looking at mobile also. And then finally, as I mentioned, don't underestimate the organizational impacts from the rapid changes. So I know I did a lot of speaking here, so I appreciate you taking the time to listen here. And Simone, I wanted to open it up to questions at this point, if there are any.
Yeah, definitely. And if you guys do have some questions, feel free again to chat those into the chat feature at the lower left-hand portion of your screen. We'll queue up a couple of them now. But again, we still have a little bit of time here before we wrap up, and we'd love to get to your questions if you do have them. So here's one, Ron. What size organizations or industries, I know you kind of touched on this just briefly, are looking at leveraging social right now? It's the huge ones, it's the small ones. Where do you see maybe kind of like the average of that?
Yeah, so the industries that we're really seeing are adopting some of the cloud technologies, and some of the social technologies in particular are really more of the consumer-facing companies. So people like Comcast, I know is one of the people who are looking at this, but anybody who has tens of thousands or millions of customers out there are really embracing it. So most of the large telcos and so forth are embracing social. On the cloud technologies, as I mentioned, in the bigger companies, we're seeing department by department sort of adoption. Salesforce automation, sales teams are sort of the first to adopt it. We're really seeing that being picked up by marketing organizations, and now service organizations are really jumping on board.
So here's another one from Andre that just came in, and he says, what's the biggest misunderstanding of cloud computing for some of those smaller businesses?
Yeah, so, and this is not just for small business, but I think it's for even large businesses. What I hear is a lot of IT people worry about security. And if you're dealing with a reputable company, so security is even more secure on some of these cloud solutions, because if you think about it, I'll just give you an example of Salesforce.com. So they have 3 to 4 data centers spread around the world with redundant. So if one data center got completely wiped out, the others would pick up. they have all kinds of security, biometric security to get into there. So that's one thing on the security. From a small company, I think a lot of people look at in the cloud model, you're typically renting the solution, so you're paying on a month per user, and they look at these costs per month, and they think they might be a little higher. But when you think about not having to have the infrastructure in-house of servers, not having the staff to maintain them, and then not having to worry about your backups and business continuity, the cost ends up being lower in that typical refresh cycle for technology is 3 to 5 years. So by the time you get to where you would have been at a break even for if you had the infrastructure in-house, you're having to update that infrastructure, so you sort of never catch up. Andre, I hope that answered some of the questions. Anything in particular you want to dive in further?
We'll give him a minute to answer back. If there is anything else, Andre will take some time to answer that. So I know you mentioned, obviously security might be a barrier as far as implementing cloud solutions, or perceived barrier at least. Is there anything else that you think is typically a barrier, whether it's perceived or not, as implementing some of these solutions?
Yeah, so once again, I hear another barrier is that people think of it, am I all in the cloud, and then I can't use some of my existing systems that are sort of legacy and then are in-house. So that's one other thing people worry about. But we do this all the time for our clients. You can have cloud-based systems and premise-based systems and all interacting. So we work with a number of data integration middleware companies like Informatica, Cast Iron, Pervasive, where you can build real-time or batch integrations between the systems. So that's something else that people think about and don't realize that it's not all or none, but most of the time it's a combination of the two.
Okay. That's good to know. And kind of a follow-up to Andre's question before, what happens, I know you mentioned cloud computing kind of being elastic, and he says what happens when capacity is reached can capacity actually be reached in cloud computing?
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, it depends on what scale you're working at. So for example, Salesforce.com has it's 90,000 users, 90,000 companies using it, and I forget what the number is. It's a multi-million users. So if you're a company, and even if you're a 10,000 person company and you're going to add another 500 users, that 500 out of the multi-million users is still such a small part of it. Same thing with Amazon Web Services. So if you're working with some of these larger providers, they're planning in advance, seeing their sales rate and their growth, and they tend to stay above the curve basically of people adding on solutions. Now a smaller provider, I could see if you're a large percentage of their business on the particular application, that could be an issue. But once again, it depends on the scale of the vendor you're working with.
We'll do one other quick question here, and again, if anybody has additional ones, feel free to chat them in. But you might have touched on this briefly before, and I might have missed it. But can you explain a little bit more how cloud solutions are integrating with legacy systems? Yeah.
So typically, systems have what we call an API, an application program interface. And what you do is there's let's say a typical person account record in different systems. So you might have a name and address, other contact information. So let's say in my CRM system, I enter that data for a new customer, so person. And we want that to be reflected in a billing system, which happens to run on a premise-based, let's say, ERP system like SAP. So you can build integrations via the APIs between the two systems that whenever a record is created, it then moves over a copy of that data into the other system. And that can be done via programmatically by just writing system calls between the two APIs, or you can use middleware vendors that already have these data points mapped between some of the large systems.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that answer and kind of clarifying a little bit. I'm sure there's plenty of people that are curious how it all works on the back end.
Okay.
So on that note, too, if anybody else last-minute questions, otherwise I'm going to give Ron a quick moment to kind of give his closing remarks if there's any last items you want to mention today before we wrap up.
All right, Simone. Yeah, so just in summary, as I mentioned, Stadia is a consulting company, so we help bring the cloud to life. So we can help you with your business processes, your technology choices, and help you build out a successful business in the cloud. So whenever you need some help, we're here to help you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I will say that ReadyTalk partners with the Stadia, and we've actually just recently built out our own cloud connector with them that integrates with Salesforce. So we've had great experiences with everybody over at Stadia, and we're glad to have them on our webinar series today. So again, thank you, Ron, for taking some time out of your afternoon to share with us a little bit more about what's going on in the cloud. We appreciate it. Sometimes it can be a little bit fuzzy, so we appreciate the clarification for sure. If anybody has additional questions for Ron, feel free to chat yes into the chat feature, or his contact information will be included in the post-event email that we'll send out later this afternoon. If you have any additional questions about ReadyTalk specifically in our platform, our integrations that we've done with Salesforce through Stadia, we'd be happy to answer questions on that as well. Leave us a note in the post-event survey to that note. And again, on the note of the post-event survey, we'd love to get your feedback on what you were, hopefully your answers, or excuse me, your questions today were answered in the webinar. If you have any additional ones, leave them in there and we'll be sure to follow up with you. So thanks for taking some time out of your afternoon to join us today, and we hope you come back for another event in our webinar series. Check it out on our website, ReadyTalk.com. I'll throw up the slide here really quick, and you can visit and see what other events we have coming up in the future. And there's a whole list of archived events in which this one will be available as well if you'd like to re-listen to some of the points that Ron made today. So have an awesome afternoon, and hopefully we'll see you on another event in the future soon. Thanks so much.